Alright guys, Technical here back again today, and over the last day or so, CDL Intel has tweeted another, as people are calling them, Crone bombs, related to the intel that we've been missing over the last few days. Of course, the last several weeks we've gone from a position of knowing rumours for some of the rosters, to knowing rumours for most of the rosters, to getting announcements out, and now having rumours for pretty much all the rosters. We're going to go through that today, as I'm sure you guys will be interested in it. Going through some other rumours as well, related to Sensor, related to the Crimsix Claystar Dallas situation. Also, want to have a look at Juan and Spacely, players that aren't rumoured to be on any team so far in the season, and exactly why that could possibly be. A few days ago we talked about it, kind of brushed the surface. A lot of you guys were like, well, you know, John wasn't great in the Black Ops 4 season, so kind of makes sense he's not on the team. He's definitely not on the team for the reasons of like skill, right, and his legendary career. Definitely no chance that happens, especially as Adam Fitch was saying yesterday, talking about friendships and all that. Definitely John would be on a team. Why exactly isn't he? Well, we'll have a look at the reasons in the latter half of this video. So like if you guys enjoy, subscribe if you are new. As always, I would greatly appreciate it. And as Jacob Hawks brings to my attention on Twitter here, Sensor tweeted this yesterday: great times at Damon Karma Barlow. Now this is interesting. We've got Sensor, we've got Karma, we've got Parasite. You can see in the background just a snippet of his head, and I'm pretty sure this is Apathy. I looked up this squad and they were playing back in the Ghost days, end of Ghost. I believe this on the corner, maybe the UMG logo as well, kind of looks like it, might not be, but there was an event when they were on phase at the end of Ghost, UMG Nashville. They walked away from the trophy. It was Sensor, it was Apathy, it was Karma, with Parasite on the team as well. Now, interestingly here, when Jacob Hawk says Sensor to Seattle question mark, because Karma and Apathy are rumoured to be on the Seattle roster. We have the following roster rumoured: Octane, Enable, Slacked, Karma and Apathy is the rumour. We've been talking the last couple of days as to where Sensor will end up. Will he decide to go to a team that maybe has less firepower to give himself more of a chance of getting onto a starting roster? And Adam Fitch, UK Esports Journalist of the Year, was saying that, you know, probably an organisation looking to Sensor has got misguided priorities. I don't see it like that. We're yet to know whether Sensor is going to be like a primary or a secondary sub, or whether he's even going to be a tertiary sub, because you can have 5 substitutes on your team, right? Just because you're looking into Sensor to bring in fans and to bring in content creation doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be one of your 2 first pick substitutes if things do go wrong. However, back in the day on CDL Birmingham in World War II, when he was on that Lightning Pandas team, I forget exactly what the team was, but it was Exotic, Royalty and one other. Anyway, that team was firing under his lead, and I think they even beat FaZe that event when he was. I remember I was refereeing the match when he was doing the vetoes with Crowder and was talking him up and was hyping up his team, and played great, to be honest, that event. He's a guy who at least will put in a shift. If he really wants it, if he really wants to get on the starting roster, Sensor will put in a shift. A guy like Embos, for example, if he was a substitute, then I would be starting to question things, because I know that he's not going to get to a level that you need to be at nowadays to compete at the very top. But I think Sensor could bring some intangibles to be valuable to a starting roster at some point. Not probably going to happen at the start of the season, but he might be on the substitute bench, and maybe Seattle could be his home. Some other ones we could consider as well. But moving on from that, we have this talking about how Sensor was would offer 100, and what did I say, 100? 10 grand for the @Sensor on Instagram. And he told me no. Now, interestingly, obviously he already has the @Sensor on Twitter, so maybe he just wants it for that reason. But Inflammable Fire has an interesting point that possibly it could be related to taking FaZe out their handle. I don't think Sensor would voluntarily really leave FaZe. It's possible he could still be in FaZe and be a substitute for a Call of Duty organisation. As long as he is a CoD substitute, rather than like being picked up as a content creator, then there might be some issues with FaZe. But anyway, something to consider what Inflammable Fire says right here. Moving on to the Crimsix Claystar Dallas situation. Texas forever, says Crimsix. I'm guessing this is Dallas in the background, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. And also we have the following from Clay and Crimsix. Yes, they're talking about Seattle. Probably just a bit of bait on their behalf. I highly doubt that's happening. But anyway, just the fact that they're talking to each other here probably implies something. And going on to what Robert says, I know it's been a rumour for a while, but here's what I think confirms it in a new Crimsix video. Playing with Claystar, so I went to look up the video, and let's zoom out of that one real quick. In the bottom left here, we can see Claystar and Crimsix, and let's zoom back in on this in enhanced image, where we can see Clay and Crimsix playing it pretty damn clearly here. So yeah, the conversations they've kind of been having pretty much do confirm things, and also this is a good spot by Robert saying that the AT&T Stadium is one of the dopest stadiums I've been in. And it is indeed the home of the Dallas Cowboys. So he's pretty hyped. Maybe you guys are hyped as well to see these guys back on a team together. I thought this is very interesting from Fred as well, related to the same idea. Back in the day, I don't really remember this exactly because I wasn't really following the scene at the time, but if I recall correctly, says Fred, wasn't Crimsix close to joining Envy when CoD broke up back in the day? Of course, he went on from CoD to, you know, the whole Evil Geniuses thing and all of this stuff. Now, if he was close to joining Envy back in the day, as I've heard a couple of people say now, quite interesting that maybe his first thought after this OpTic Gaming situation all went down over the last few months, he's been thinking, well, maybe I should go back to Hastro, back to Dallas, and that kind of, you know, puts another rung behind that rumour, whatever the hell that expression's meant to mean. Here's the Kroenke bomb then from the last few days. We'll go on in a second to the full list of rosters that are rumoured. So here we go. Toronto has 8 to 10 players. Very, very interesting here, right? Because I guess they are going on the lower end in terms of the salary they're paying, because when we look down here, some players are making well over 26 grand a month. We thought it was crazy when we heard in the World War II season that Zuma was getting paid like 20 grand a month. Which, of course, you work that out over the course of a year, you're talking some, you know, stupid cash. So maybe Toronto's plan is to pay their players, you know, borderline the minimum, which is a 50 grand salary if you guys aren't aware, but then have a lot of players and a lot of substitutes to choose from. We've had so many names associated with Toronto that maybe they're thinking, let's just build an absolutely huge roster, and then let's just pick and choose what we do depending on how the meta works. Interesting way to go. That's the rumour for now. Atura, of course, Ricky Atura, who was a coach for, I think, maybe Accelerate for a time. I'm not sure if he was on Midnight, and then I think he might have been working with Elevate or something towards the end of the year. I'm not exactly sure where he bounced around. Maybe he was on UYU actually towards the end of the year. Apparently he's going to be a likely coach for Florida, so that rumoured team is, let's see if I remember, Havoc, Skies, Frosty, Pristini, and Morks, I think is the squad. Anyway, Atlanta, the rumoured roster for that is Priester, Major Maniac, Simp, Abizi, and Celium. And apparently Gravity and Journey might be substitutes. Obviously, Gravity makes sense, right? Given, you know, Simp, for example, was playing with Gravity on that team last year. The FaZe Black team, of course, that won Fort Worth. God, my memory is struggling. Anyway, T-Tiny, which I've heard of, that he may be a potential substitute. Apparently he could be linked to Minnesota. Some players making well over 26k a month. The Lando Paris team thing is something that I heard about, that we talked about a few days ago now. Mutex, S&D analyst or substitute for Dallas. So interesting stuff there. And then old intel at Nubsy, potentially coach for Seattle. Teep going to Chicago would kind of make sense on that front, given, well, it'd make a lot of sense, right? He's just been with Scump and Hector for the last couple of years. Merk and Rambo may be coaches for Dallas. This is something I heard about a fair bit ago now, that Rambo might have even been in consideration for Dallas. Heard this probably a couple months ago, and Merk as well has been baited. So I honestly think I would put a fair bit of stock into this, and it would be a pretty damn cool thing if it did indeed happen. So these are the full list of rumoured rosters that we have right here. Toronto, or why am I starting from the bottom? Atlanta, the team we just looked at. Chicago, the same old squad that we've talked about. Dallas, Florida, London. The 2 Los Angeles squads. Los Angeles, Aches, Aqua Saints, Decimate, question mark, is still the names in consideration. Minnesota, going to round out their team with Alex and Asim is the rumour. New York, Paris, of course, now confirmed. Seattle, yet to be confirmed, but maybe even Census home if he's not baiting it. But, you know, Census kind of a guy that, especially when he says in yesterday's clip that we showed, no, I can't talk about that. Probably kind of a guy that wouldn't talk about that, so maybe that tweet is indeed bait. And the Toronto squad talking about a lot of things. Now, in reply to this tweet, Vinzilla says, so you're telling me John or Spacey are not on a starting roster for the CDL? Intel CoD, Kroenke says, you gonna tell them why, or should I? Now, this is interesting, right? Implying that he knows the reasons why at least one of these players isn't going to be on a starting roster. And let's go on to the Reddit thread related to this tweet. I will leave it linked down below. Now, Kroenke says the following, the guy who runs this account. When the teams are announced and John isn't on one, I'll tweet why. I won't go deep into details though. I don't know about Spacely, I was talking about John. So this tweet maybe not completely clear, because it definitely does imply that both players are, you know, he's talking about both players, right? Thanks to Jeremy for pointing this out to me as well. Now, you know, the replies, I might be out of the loop, etc. If it's something personal, I don't know why you want to tweet. I don't know if you want to tweet it out. We're just fans who don't deserve to know anything. My tweet won't have anything personal in there. And, you know, fair enough from Barty here talking about how you know, probably doesn't want to ruin John's chances of signing for an organisation if he comes out with something particularly derogatory, as some people are implying. The first kind of funny response here from Drew was talking about Kenz or Kenzie, I don't know how you're going to pronounce it. If you guys have been around the scene a long time, you'll know that Kenzie was dating Scump for a long time, went back and forth. Now apparently she's dating John. It honestly is all over the place, but if that is the case, she does have some kind of like e-girl curse about her, where whoever she ends up dating doesn't have the best time in the game over the next few months. So obviously that's just a bit of poking fun, but thought it was pretty funny nonetheless. And then we have this from Bravdi, I don't know how you're meant to pronounce this. He says it's drug related 100%, and I don't want to jump on the bandwagon here. This is obviously pure speculation from these individuals, but I thought just in relation to another Reddit comment, I wouldn't have mentioned this if it hadn't been for this Reddit comment from the Big Eye Seamus. Now this guy, Jacob Hale, a journalist formerly of Jinx TV, now at Deserto, he says, not a clue about Spacely, but pretty sure John is banned, maybe way off. Now I talked to Jake a little bit behind the scenes before this video. I don't want to go into details here because it's his source, so if he wants to, if he can find another source and break the article, then that's on him. I don't want to infringe on that content, but you know, he does have sources behind the scenes saying that this is likely, and it may indeed be related to what Bravdi talks about here. Now, not exactly sure what drugs that could be talking about, right? But supposedly it's possible that the league and the CDL or whatever have taken a decision against John. Now that's speculation. It's not something I want to promote particularly, but it would kind of make sense given what we've been talking about, the fact that John doesn't seem to be on a team, doesn't seem to have got any like offers or whatever. Nothing's really been talked about it, and there's so many players, right, that are getting on teams and are getting substitute positions that John is way higher tier than in terms of his caliber and what he's done in the past and his achievements and his friendships and his, you know, bond within the community. For him not to be on a team doesn't make any sense, so it has to be a drastic reason, and this could indeed be the reason. So before we end the video, just wanted to go through this that a few people were mentioning to me. Call of Duty World Leagues at CoD World League does the following couple of tweets, and also Atomic CoD mentioned this to me, which they put on their Instagram. And if we look at their header here, they've changed the background. So this is United winning the World Championship, but they've made it all kind of blurry and fuzzy and almost like this kind of thing is going to be updated. We know that the Call of Duty World League is not going to probably be called the Call of Duty World League next year. It's probably just going to be called the Call of Duty League. But it would make sense to keep the same Twitter, given it has 936,000 followers. So my imagination is that the next iteration, when they do another one of these little 5-second videos, is going to be, you know, some sort of next evolution of what the logo is going to look like. It's not going to be CoD World League anymore, and that's the same thing they've done with their AVI and also their header, and probably it's going to move to the CDL, the Call of Duty League, or something like that. I don't think they're going to be calling it the World League anymore. I don't think the reasoning there is because it's not a global league, even though that is kind of an implication, right, in not calling it the World League, that it's North American based, which of course it is. But anyway, that's probably going to go in line with what the Overwatch League is called, the OWL, the CDL, kind of makes sense. Anyway, thanks for watching the video as always. Like if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you are new as always, and I will see you next time.